the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast. My name is Brian Wallace, and I am the MS Michigan Man 64. The MS Michigan Man 64 podcast is about chronic disease awareness. I have had multiple sclerosis for the last 27 years. It's an invisible chronic disease that I've been battling for half of my life. I want to share with you what it is like living with the chronic disease from my experiences and the experiences of other chronic disease warriors. We can fight to have a voice to those that want to listen. Together, we can motivate and educate. Hi, welcome to the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast. Today, I am really jacked up. I am sitting down with David. David has multiple sclerosis, but the best part about this is David is a high school football coach in the state of Louisiana. How are you doing, Dave?
Doing great, Brian. How things going up there?
It's cold here. It's cold. It's cold in Ohio. I'm waiting for spring.
Yes, sir.
And I'm waiting for fall. Then I'm waiting for fall for football season, brother.
That's right. You can't get here soon enough.
You got that right. Hey, Dave, you got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Can you kind of take us through your journey with the diagnosis, how you got diagnosed, what kind of symptoms you were dealing with, and what sent the red flag up that made you say, hey, something's not right. I better go see a doctor.
Sure. I was diagnosed about 10 years ago. I had been suffering for a long time from different symptoms, but I didn't understand where they were coming from. At the time, I was running a lumber company, and we were all, we worked hard and we played pretty hard too. We drank a lot of beer and hung out and ate food and stuff like that. So some of the symptoms that I was having, I was attributing to drinking too much beer or having too much fun or something like that, eating the wrong things. Mm-hmm. And I just kept going. I really didn't see the
what were the
opportunities?
What were the early signs that you were seeing that you were ignoring? Like what can you elaborate a little bit?
Sure. I was having some cognitive problems. I was having some problems with my digestive system and my stomach. And I had a lot of body aches.
Okay.
And a lot of headaches. And I just didn't really, I didn't understand that those were symptoms of MS. I thought they were just symptoms of growing older.
So did you know what MS was, Dave? I mean, because when I was 20, because when I was 27, I didn't know what MS was, and I was just wondering if you really had an understanding of what MS was and the symptoms and all that, or if you were just kind of, hey, I don't even really understand what's going on.
I didn't know what in the world MS was, and here's a big part of my story is 2 years before I was diagnosed, my son was diagnosed with MS.
Oh, wow.
And he was playing college football and had come down the field covering a kick and got knocked out cold. Oh. And they brought him to the hospital and started doing brain scans. And he was knocked out, but they were looking for brain bleeds or anything like that could be there.
Yeah, sure.
And they found MS. And so they, like I say, I didn't know what it was. So we all thought it was like a death sentence, and we're reading and studying and learning more about it. But I really wasn't focused on the symptoms. I was focused on the fact he already had it and how we need to deal with it, and learned, of course, that it wasn't a death sentence, and there were things that could be done. And one of the great things about him too is he was, because of the football situation, he was diagnosed so much earlier than, like, say, in my case. and he's been on Ocrevus, ever since he was diagnosed, basically. And he's strength and conditioning coach at a large high school down in Louisiana,
Mm-hmm.
and as physically fit as anybody you would want to meet.
Right.
And and so he's really, he really is beating it, with the medications out there today,
Mm-hmm.
along with his, diet and his exercise regime. He really is beating it, and so far so good.
Awesome.
With it.
Yeah.
I had learned something about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that's so awesome that he's kicking its ass, and and he attacked it right off the rip too, and being a fitness guy, I'm sure he's continuing to work out and he's keeping himself in shape, and that exercise is so important. So when you
Absolutely.
when you went through your diagnosis and your son was already diagnosed within the 2 years, is that like the only family history, or do you have other family history, or are you guys like the lucky two of the family?
No, we were my family. We all thought we were lucky, and my siblings have AIDS. My brother's got Parkinson's. My sister has rheumatoid arthritis, and I have MS. We all have,
Chronic diseases. Yeah,
chronic diseases.
Yeah, and
then
there's
as we
neurological.
started looking back, I have an uncle who died early in life that was considered, kind of slow,
Mm-hmm.
and he very well could have had MS. And then my mother, of course, has rheumatoid arthritis very bad.
Yeah.
So we kind of started, tracing back and finding where it was in our history and finding where our family was, full of it. And then, my son had it too. So,
Yeah.
and I've still got two younger children that I'm hoping they don't have to face it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you got diagnosed, and especially your son was diagnosed 2 years before, I know that just being diagnosed, the patient, that's a huge mental health issue. Now you got your son diagnosed 2 years before you, and you're getting diagnosed. How did you handle that, like the mental health part of this, Dave?
It was when I got diagnosed, I can tell you, Brian, it was the worst thing that I was not ready to hear that you had multiple sclerosis.
Yeah.
Not only that, my wife at the time told me that day that she couldn't handle it, and we were divorcing. And so I got an MS diagnosis. I was all of a sudden, worrying about my son because I thought I had given it to him. My wife leaves me because she's not going to deal with it, which ended up, being one of the best things in my life because I remarried a friend of 30 years, things moved forward there. But mentally, I was struggling big time. And, I'd just been through the sale of our business. It was, the lumbar business, hardwood lumbar business, but it was kind of my identity. I started it so early. And, sold that.
So this disease, this disease not only is kicking your ass, it's taking your business. I mean, and that's the thing,
right?
And that's the thing, Dave, that I don't think that people really understand the kind of the destruction that this disease does to people. Because it can destroy lives, but
it absolutely can.
So you're going through all this shit. You're losing your business, this mental health. I mean, how do you get yourself through this? I mean, are you getting professional help? Are you just roughing it out yourself and trying to figure it out as you go? What are you doing, Dave?
I am getting some mental health help, and because I'm struggling bad, and but I'm white knuckling it in large part because and I've just been raised in a way that that's how you did it, and you had to be mentally tougher than the circumstances around you, and I learned that from my parents, and you had to be mentally tougher than the things around you and overcome it. But I was struggling bad,
Yeah.
And was probably my outlook on the way that I approach things in life. And everything's results oriented the way I think. You create opportunities for yourself, and it's by the way you handle it, and the way you go out and go after different things in life. And but it probably hurt me because I was too stubborn and I was too egotistical, to be honest with you. To I didn't go to doctors, man. I didn't, except for orthopedic stuff, the sports.
Yep.
That's the only thing I ever really went to a doctor for. And so I didn't go to doctors, and unless it was an emergency.
Right.
And that's what ended up happening is I ended up having a series of really bad falls. I was having some falls, coaching, running up and down the sidelines, things like that I couldn't explain, but I kind of took it as, I said and represented as I'm clumsy. But when the game would be over, I would go to the hospital and walk in and tell them I'm having problems with my heart. And they could never find anything there. And they weren't going as deep as I was going into ER. They weren't going as deep as finding that I had MS or that I possibly did. And so there were 4 of those times that went on in, the 2 years before I was diagnosed. So those were kind of extracurricular type things that were going on. But, that was, just trying to keep myself up and going, just trying to be mentally tough and make the best of my situation.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And Dave, when I first got diagnosed, just coming out of Michigan, playing football and all that, and I thank God that I played in Michigan because I was still in that mindset, a football player and athlete. And when I got that diagnosis, I kind of just said, you know what, I'm just going to attack this because what else am I going to do? I'm 27 years old and I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. So I'm just going to keep on rocking and rolling until something happens. And that's the way I lived my life. And I didn't do anything for the mental health part of it either. I just kept on, plugging on because I was a badass. But I got to a point where, when it took my career away, like it did with you, I spiraled.
Yeah.
My mental health spiraled out of control. I mean, I was to the point where I was thinking of, I might as well not even be around anymore. What's the point? I'm a burden on everybody. I'm useless because I don't have a job anymore. I had to go out on disability. I mean, you got so many things that are going through your head, and I made the choice, to go to my doctor and say, hey, I'm thinking some stupid shit. And he right away got me in to see a psychiatrist, and they got me on mental health meds because this disease will tear you up mentally, and you got to stay on top of that.
I like to think of it like this. I've struggled with everything you just said. And I'd like to think of it like this. MS came into my life, and my life completely changed. And my mental health was so bad, I was spiraling downhill in a hurry. Talking about hospice and, thinking bad thoughts. And, I just was, going in the complete opposite direction of how I've always lived my life.
Yeah.
And then I got pissed off, and my current wife, she helped me a lot to get pissed off. We got pissed off at MS together and decided that we were, she helped me and she participated too, but I was going to start working out and rebuild myself and figure out exactly what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And that's when I decided I could go back and coach and impact, the young people around me, and hopefully have a positive impact on everybody around me. But, I just go back and coach and do that. So I worked in the pool, in physical therapy, in the weight room, walking and stuff like that, and built myself back up to the point where I could do it.
That is so awesome. That is so awesome, Dave.
Yes.
because we can't quit, man. And I know it's hard. I know, you're gonna get knocked down. You're gonna be down on the ground flat. I know I've been
Yeah,
plenty of times, and somehow you just got to find the strength to pull yourself back up, dust yourself off, and say, you know what, I'm not done fighting yet, and you got to keep on
that's
going.
right.
If
That's exactly.
and I always try to tell people, if you lose the ability to walk, or to walk very good, you can still use a cane and you can still get around. If it gets a little bit worse than that, then you use a walker, and if it gets a little bit worse than that, you use a wheelchair, but you don't quit. You don't quit. You keep on
That's
going.
right. Oh, absolutely. And that's something that I struggled last season, standing on the sidelines for a whole game, and really struggled with it. And I was able to do it, but I was it really hurt. And this year, I'm going to be able to do some different things. I'm going to work more from the press box and on the radios down sidelines, and then on some of the JV games and stuff like that. I'll be using my walker so I can spin it around and sit down on it some because it helps me that much.
Yeah.
And just modifying things, based on my circumstance.
You know what I always say, Dave. We figure shit out. If you still want to
We
do
do.
if you still want to do something, you're going to figure it out. I tell people I got a place. Me and my wife have a place up by the lake, Lake Erie, up here by Ohio, and I had a jet ski up until last year. Um, you know, I
Yeah.
I used a cane on the dock, and I got to my jet ski and I got up on it and I got on the water and I took off and rode. And you know what? I used to have a motorcycle when I was younger. I don't want to ride a motorcycle now because I don't have the balance. So if I fall into the water, I'm not going to die. I might have a hard time getting out of the water, but I'm not going to die.
Right.
Yeah.
That would be kind of like me and my lawnmowers. I don't teach at school. I just coach football. But my other thing that I do at school is I coach the game fields and the athletic fields, and I can be having trouble walking, and I can climb up on there, and I'm in my own world, man, and feel good.
Yeah.
And it's kind of my little spot.
Yeah. That's your release. Hey Dave, I gotta add, okay. I want to back up because you talked on another good topic that people don't understand, that this disease ruins marriages, and you said you went through a divorce. Not saying that not saying that multiple sclerosis is the always the real final reason why a divorce happens, because there might be other problems in between that.
No
But
doubt.
but MS doesn't help the cause. Let's put it that way. And you went through a divorce, and now you're remarried. I want to hear the story on how you ended up getting remarried after you've already been diagnosed. And you found somebody to accept your disease, because I went through the same thing with a divorce, and I'm remarried too. But I want to hear your story, buddy.
Yes, sir. I had a hardwood lumber company for years called Hogan Hardwood and Molding that grew real fast and was exciting and all that. And we had locations across the Southeast, 12 of them. And we had one down in Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. And we hired this Cracker Jack salesperson that was from, our competition. She was, everybody liked her the most when we went down in that area and went around the cabinet shops and introduced ourselves. We'd also ask them, who are you buying your lumber from now? And who do you trust? And things like that. And the name that kept coming up was Angie Mills. Angie Mills. And so we go after her and we end up hiring her to come to work with us too. And she was one of our very top salespeople out of, close to 100 salespeople in the company. And she, really made that individual lumberyard come alive. And I knew Angie. Obviously, she was a salesperson for us, and I was in a sales meeting every month with all the salespeople, and very involved in sales effort in general. But she was one of our top performers, and we were always friends. I was married to a woman that was working in the business some too, so they knew each other. And when we when I got a divorce, and I was I I was just kind of moving along,
Hmm.
and out of the blue, I get this call from Angie, and she says, "David, this is Angie. I'm calling to check on you. I heard that you have multiple sclerosis, and I'm checking on you." So you said, "Well, I'm actually doing okay." I was struggling like hell to install, but at the time, in
Right.
general.
Right.
But I said, I'm doing okay. And she said, "Well, we need to have lunch one day." So, we met up, and of course the conversation was about MS, and, about what she wanted to ask me about, and explaining to her, the things that were going on and stuff like that. And that I was at kind of a low point in my life. And we just continued to have conversations. And then I didn't have anybody to go to the doctor with me, at the time, and knew I needed somebody to go to my MS doctor with me. And so I asked her if she would go along. And we went in there, and I had at the time, I had gone from, a lot of lesions, but I had obtained like 4 or 5 new ones, including one on the top of my spine.
Hmm.
And so when we went back in there, and we were going to have to see the doctor. It was kind of one of those visits where the doctor comes in the room, and she's just done my scans, and she's very concerned about it. She's showing it, and she's changed my medication, and she also has advised me to stop working. And all this goes on, and she's just there to support me. And but really, that was a kind of a changing point in our relationship, because she went from being my buddy to being my,
Hmm.
somebody who really loved me. She wanted to make sure that I was taking care of myself, and that that I was, being taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we just got closer and closer, and ended up, that we developed a relationship with each other. And then we had been, hanging out and stuff, for close to a year. And we spent another year as a couple dating each other. And then we got married.
And
And,
that's an awesome story, Dave. That's a beautiful story. And let me ask you this about with your wife. Did she have any prior experience of dealing with people or having a relationship with not a guy girl relationship, but just a relationship in period? As far as somebody that had multiple sclerosis, or was she new to the disease and she just learned it on her own?
she was new to the disease. She wasn't new to diseases, because her son had Down syndrome.
Okay.
And so she had worked close with him, working with him. And then, it was almost, she lost her son
Oh,
in a drowning accident. It was horrible.
I'm
And,
sorry.
but yes, sir. She had, so she really was seasoned on being able to take care and help somebody.
Yeah.
And, she was also, I knew her son Trevor very well. We loved him to death. And she was also, she let Trevor be his own man, and pushed him to, get out and
Mhm.
get out of the shell and things like that. So that's the same way she's done to me. She's pushed me to get out of my, funk and get going.
That's just,
And,
that's just such an awesome story, Dave. And I didn't even know this part about you because we didn't talk about that. But that's just a beautiful story, and I can relate to that. This is like it's crazy how much in common we have. So
and
when I got divorced, I met my wife, and I had dated a couple of ladies before this, and I always had the same like couple of questions that I had when I first met a girl, and I always came right off the rip and said, hey, I just want you to know, that I have multiple sclerosis, and every girl that I went out on dates with, it ended real quick. I even had
right,
I even had one female that after I told her we've met for a drink at a bar, And I told her I had MS, and she said, "Oh, really? Okay, well, this isn't going to work." And she got up and walked out. And I'm like, holy shit. So I ask that question all the time when I sat down with a girl. So when I met my wife, Sharon, I asked that question, and she looked at me and said, "I don't care." And I said, you know what MS is?" And she said, "No." And I go, "Okay, well, that's a good thing, you know." So we started dating. I find out that her daughter is on the autism spectrum. So, you know,
Yeah,
it takes somebody that knows something about dealing with like a chronic, illness or a disease to understand it. And, and that's sad. I mean, it's awesome, but it's sad that the rest of the population isn't like that. You know what I mean?
it is. It is for sure. And then that was something with Angie that she was the same way. She didn't care. And to this day, she still doesn't care. If anything, if I'm maybe because it's my wife and I'm really opening up to her and I'm whining a little bit, she'll stop me dead in my tracks and tell me, it could be a lot worse, and you're right, and move on from there. But she really helps me move forward and keep on, and she helps me keep a positive attitude too.
Yeah.
I'm over the border on being positive, and I always have been. But she pushed me too.
Yeah.
So that's good.
So, okay. So here's my last talking point, and I got to end it on football, coach.
Absolutely.
I want to know, being that you have MS, and I was a coach too. I was a high school football coach too, back in up until like 2015. And I always tried to kind of teach the kids not only the game of football, but just help them understand multiple sclerosis a little bit. So, what do you do with your kids? Do you explain to them what this disease is all about? Just kind of let them know, hey, this is going to be out there when you guys get out in the real world. So if you come across somebody that might be walking with a little bit of a limp or something like that, just don't be judging them.
Absolutely. I talk to the guys. Everybody knows that I have multiple sclerosis. I talk to them more along the lines of how I think about it. It's overcoming adversity, and talk to them about you're going to have all kinds of adversity, whether it be on the football field, or whether obviously in life you're going to have those as you grow older, and you're going to have a lot of adversity in your life.
Yep.
And I talk to them about, don't let it overwhelm you. Don't get, take it as it comes, and be, willing to make changes and adapt to different things. And I use my story about MS, and really I use, a lot of times I use the story that, my life, 23, I opened my own business, and by 27, it was $100 million a year business, and it ended up growing to a $250 million a year business. And then, my life completely changed with it, with MS. We sold the business before I was diagnosed, but I was still equally involved and employed, doing the same thing when I was diagnosed. So we talk about, you'll have times in your life and you got to, potentially have to change your game. And you got to be, one thing I learned in business is things are going to change.
Yep.
And you've got to be ready to handle them. I mean, big things like Hurricane Katrina. We had 4 yards down in the south, down around the New Orleans area. And New Orleans was completely flattened, and we had 26 employees that we put them on, we moved them to other locations they would stay employed. And we just went through all these things, and there was so much that we had to adapt to, and that we had to, be mentally tough and overcome in situations like that. That just learned a lot from that.
Awesome.
So the kids, I let the kids know that you have to be ready to overcome adversity, and but it's going to happen in your life, and and I do it in a way where they understand that, yeah, it is going to happen in my life. You
Yep.
know, a lot of times, young guys don't understand. They think, and I was that way. I thought that nothing could ever knock me off of, my game. And it took me learning, early in business that, I was going to get knocked off my game and had to, just hit my feet and come right back from it and continue to fight and make things happen. So my guys understand that I got in this and that, I try to be as tough about it as I can, but they know I'm hurting and stuff. Like on the sidelines, they can see it on me, like that picture I showed you, you can see it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but I'm still there for them, and they're there for me too.
And they see that too. They see that, Coach. They see that, and I'm gonna end the topic, and I'm gonna thank you so much for coming and sharing awareness. But I'm gonna leave it with a quote from my old coach, Bo Schembechler, and I'm going to tell your guys this. So if they're listening,
Yes,
listen up, guys. The great Bo Schembechler used to tell us as a team all the time that it doesn't matter if you win, lose, you're going to win, lose in life. The one thing that's never going to change is the sun's always going to come up in the morning. So it doesn't matter what life throws at you, and that's not going to change. Like, the sun's going to come up in the morning, keep on going, you keep on fighting.
that's right. I totally agree with that, and what a great quote from a great, great, great coach and man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Dave, thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to get going. This is going to be the MS Michigan Man, Brian. Getting out of here. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, MS Michigan Man 64. Also on TikTok, MS Michigan Man 64. And I'm on Facebook, Brian Wallace out of Brunswick, Ohio. You all have a good day. I am out.